Welcome back to another episode of C is for Creepy.
Thank you so much for tuning in to last week's episode. We love seeing all of the views and downloads.
It's always great to see. We're gonna get right into it because this week's episode is gonna be
hefty.
Hefty. Yeah, she's a long one. And I don't know, like, Kourtney and I kind of know what each other's covering, so be prepared for some ranting.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. Hopefully you are going on a road trip and you enjoy the sound of our voice. So,
right?
I don't know if I'm going to like the sound of my voice by the time I'm done.
I hear that. But let's buckle up. She's going to be a wild ride. What is your W?
So for W this week, I am going to be covering wealthy bastards.
Yes, I'm so excited.
So if you can't tell by the title, when I was writing these notes, I was just in a shitty mood. So I purposefully picked a topic that I could just rant about. And I made that W work for me.
That's fair. If it's a stretch, it's a working stretch.
All right. When covering topics of wealth, there are things we do have to discuss. First, there's a debate about when inequality truly reared its ugly head. However, many anthropologists agree it wasn't until agriculture developed around 12,000 years ago and societies no longer had to rely on hunter-gatherers for sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as people can farm and hoard a supply, that's when people wanted to keep what they have earned.
Yeah.
Okay. When comparing human society before agriculture was commonplace, there was evidence that members of groups, which were generally around 20 people, they were in the tens, they weren't in the hundreds. It was smaller groups of people. They all contributed labor for the well-being of the group equally. This shift to hoarding resources instead of gathering what was needed was part of the rise of inequality. I read a few different articles on the subject, and there's a lot of information to unpack, but the breakdown is that with storage-based labor, such as crop farming, it led to new societal issues such as land ownership, inherited wealth, coerced labor, surplus resources, and intercommunal violence, which those things weren't issues before because you had tribes of people that
worked as a team.
Well, they worked as a team, but they were also, most of them were nomadic, right? Because you could only gather so much in an area for so long before you had to pack up and move.
Yep.
So, and once again, it's the I scratch your back, you scratch mine. So everybody looked out for each other because that is how you survived.
Mm-hmm.
With this hoard-based wealth, that changed.
Yeah.
Now that we know the fundamentals, let's chat about some of the effects that wealth can have on a person.
Arrogance?
Namely. A person's socioeconomic class can either open a lot of doors for them or they could weld them shut.
Okay.
Those with immense wealth have opportunities such as education, access to better health care, when they can retire, and also how they are treated by law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Some interesting studies done by UC Berkeley, Harvard, and the University of Utah suggest that wealth can cloud moral judgment.
Yes, we've seen this many times.
But we've also got the science to back it up. In an article published in 2012 titled Affluent People More Likely to Be Scofflaws, there were two separate field studies done which observed a four-way intersection. It was found that drivers of more expensive vehicles were 4 times more likely to cut off other vehicles and 3 times more likely to cut off a pedestrian.
Oh.
So, my car's much nicer.
But yet I'm gonna drive more recklessly.
Right?
Well, in what logic does that make sense?
To be fair, though, like, I don't know about you, but driving around the city, there's lots of times where I'm like, oh yeah, you're driving a BMW? Why would you use your signal light? Come right into me. It's fine.
You're not wrong.
I guess just BMWs.
I guess that definitely shows, like, the class system here, because, like, if I get a new car, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my baby. I'm going to drive 10 under the speed limit. Nobody's going to touch it.
Yeah, it's a pavement princess. We don't want to wreck it. It's, yeah.
No dirt roads, only premium gas, or nothing.
No.
But then you get people cutting you off in BMWs, and you're just like, the fuck, bro.
Mm-hmm. This is just one of the examples of the number of studies done which demonstrate that ethics do not take precedence in those who have an affluent mind. A famous experiment in which two people are playing Monopoly, and during this game of Monopoly, one of the players is allowed to roll with an extra dice, and they also receive more money for passing go. But this experiment gave some rather interesting findings. The player with the extra help inevitably wins the game. But while they are playing, they can increasingly, they start to present as more like cocksure, their ego starts to inflate, they're more just cocky in general. Mm-hmm. Even aggressive. And like they actually measured the table, and the person with the extra help would like start taking up more space on the table.
Oh.
You could physically measure how
much extra space they're taking up with their ego.
Exactly.
Okay.
When the game is finished, each player is asked what could have been done to change the outcome of the game. The rich player was twice as likely to talk about strategy and how they earned their win, despite the obvious inequality taking place during the game. So this is paper, like fake money, and they're talking about strategy. And then we get articles from wealthy people who had wealthy parents saying, you just need to know what you're doing. Like, you just need to strategize.
You just have to want to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe just work harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just do better. Yeah. Obviously.
What do you mean? Like, I had to work hard. I only had help from my parents.
Yeah.
I had a small loan of $100,000 or $1 million?
I know.
Mm-hmm. When talking about wealth and the justice system, there are even more interesting findings. There was a paper published in 1995 titled Rich Get Richer and the Poor Get Prison, which breaks down how, due to the leniency towards white-collar criminals in comparison to nonviolent crimes. So we're talking like drug charges, like possession of drugs, which
could put someone away for 15 years if you're poor.
Or if you're a person of color, or you're just got a dick cop.
Any amount of reason, but if you are rich, it's a blip on the system. Nobody cares.
No.
Like, look at all of the high-profile cases and trials that go on, and everyone's just openly talking about all the drugs and alcohol and partying that happens, and it's like, I'm sorry. Buddy over here was arrested for a little bit of pot in his pocket for 50 years and put in jail. Maybe not 50. But then we have photos of jars of cocaine, and this is fine and dandy.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Hookers are there? That's cool. I'm sure those nice women were just there to entertain.
Like, talk about the difference of acceptable. Not cool.
No. So it also found that those considered to be affluent offenders were given shorter prison sentences, if any, compared to a poor offender who committed the same crime. Not only that, but bail is often set not proportional to an income, right?
Oh.
So what would be like astronomical for someone who comes from a poor economic background, like that's not feasible. They're stuck in jail. Whereas someone from a wealthy family is like $5,000.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah, that's Tuesday. Whew.
By skewing these numbers and findings, it is made to look like people with lower income commit a majority of the crime when that is not the case. It is because we live in a society that punishes the poor and congratulates the wealthy. Remember, if the punishment for a crime is a fine, then the law only exists for the lower class.
We're getting somewhere. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's quite disgusting, actually. You'd think if you are a wealthier person, you should be held to a higher standard than other people. Like, you have the wealth, you have the influence, you have the ability to make change, but you're making poor decisions. That's okay. We'll just cover your butt. No.
Well, and, like, that's not even talking, like, getting into the ethical treatment of people in order for them to, like, grow their own wealth. So these, like, for example, business owners that make clothing lines, but do they pay labor wages in their, like, in America? No, they export it to China, where they can pay less with labor. So, yeah, you're rich, but on whose
back?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It was one of the examples. So with these fun findings in mind, let's get to my case.
Ooh.
I am going to be covering Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
So this is a very tricky case, since there is a lot of mystery with this self-made millionaire. I also found it very annoying to research, since a lot of the articles that I was finding from, like, the early 90s and 2000s were, like,
fluff pieces.
Very much so. Which, I mean, I get. I actually read a really good Vanity Fair article that at first I was like, Jesus Christ, not another description of this loser's house. But it was actually an incredible article. It was really well done how the investigation had how she had written her investigation to really convey what she was actually seeing, but make it acceptable for
every reader.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, like, to kind of slip it past, because Epstein actually had to, like, approve it first. So he still approved it.
After he was under... Was this before or after?
This was before the first prison sentence.
Okay.
So, like, it got in there. It was really, really good.
Okay.
Either way. Anyways, I listened to Truth and Lies, Jeffrey Epstein, which was very well done. It was a podcast done. So that one was really good. I also watched Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich, and super well done as well. There's lots and lots of victim interviews, which adds a lot of depth to the story.
See, I think was that one on Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay, I only got through, I think, like 3 episodes.
Okay.
And, boy, it was... Because he would just take schoolgirls.
Well, we'll get to it. He's
a disgusting human being.
He is. Is he a human being? I don't know. I'd like to think that humanity wouldn't do that.
Ugh. Subhuman.
Yes. Huh. That's funny because it fits, but I'll tell you about that later.
Okay.
I will say that this was a very private man for a reason. He controlled the narrative of his life. The means used to accumulate his wealth were unscrupulous, and what Epstein did with his wealth was disgusting. To take a glimpse into this man's life, at least what he allowed to be shown, is frankly unsettling.
Oh no.
I think the best way to encapsulate his personality was actually from a 2003 Vanity Fair article, which mentions a part of his decor, and that was a taxidermied black poodle placed on a grand piano.
The fuck?
When asked, Epstein was quoted saying, "I want people to think what it means to stuff a dog." Just like a window into who we're discussing.
The actual fuck.
Right?
Like, what the fuck does that mean? That could be taken so many different ways.
what the author of the article had said was she felt like he needed to have the final word.
Gross.
He was born on January 20th, 1953 in New York City, in Brooklyn, to his parents, Pauline and Seymour Epstein. His mother was a homemaker, and his father worked as a gardener and groundskeeper for the New York City Parks and Recreation Department.
So he had a humble upbringing.
Yes.
Okay. Ideally.
Yeah. So actually, despite growing up in a working class neighborhood, it was still a private gated community called Seagate. So it was one of the only gated communities on the island.
Mm-hmm.
So it just I think it kind of, there was still that separation from people, which I don't think was good for Epstein, for Jeffrey.
I don't think it's good for anybody.
No, I agree. Epstein attended Kourtney Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University, but he dropped out in 1974. This did not dissuade Epstein from gaining employment, as he was hired September 1974 as a math and physics teacher at Dalton High School, which was an elite private school.
Knowing what I know, that's gross.
It was noted that despite being inappropriate towards a number of the female students,
there it is,
he was dismissed from his position due to poor performance in 1976. It was while teaching at this high school that Epstein made connections to Alan Greenberg, who was the chief executive officer at Bear Stearns, a global investment firm. After losing his position at the high school, Greenberg offered Epstein a position. Epstein worked his way up the ladder, with his first role being a junior assistant to a floor trader, but after just 4 years, he became a limited partner.
Wow.
He held this position briefly with Bear Stearns. However, he was asked to leave in 1981 after violating regulations. So, in this case, violating regulations means that it was found that he lent $20,000 to a friend for them to buy stock at his firm. So, insider trading.
Yeah.
And lots of people, even those involved, say different things regarding that in particular. Epstein himself says, oh no, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. I quit. I just quit abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people say, no, you were insider trading. And then other people who worked at the farm said, no, he wanted to start his own business. He didn't want to work for anybody else. I'm sure the actual answer is the insider trading.
Yeah.
But it just shows how
manipulative
these facts can be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Once again, though, Epstein landed on his feet as he took this opportunity to launch his own consulting firm, Intercontinental Assets Group, and that was in August of 1981. What he did the majority of the time was recover stolen money from fraudulent companies or lawyers. He also took risky investments on behalf of his clients, some of which did not pan out. Regardless, he was being hired by affluent people and government to work on their behalf, leading to connections with other like-minded people. So it's, once again, different stories, but either a defense contractor or an attorney general introduced Epstein to Stephen Hofberg.
The luck of this man.
I don't know if it's luck.
Or he's just really good with people.
I had read that, he was introverted. He was an introvert person, but he was...
Did he mask well?
I think so. He did a good job of making connections. And he was said to be very charismatic.
They said that about Ted Bundy. But this is why you and I are not rich, is because we
don't have any stats in charisma. Oh, I know. You actually probably have better than I do, because people say you're a nice person.
You just know the truth. That's fired. Apparently not good enough. I only have a 1 star. Oh, man. Jesus.
Yeah. I'm bad at building connections. I'll be the first to admit. Oh.
The same. I don't like talking to people.
No.
That's why we have a podcast and we do it from our basement.
Yes. Oh, man. So, right away, Hoffenberg hired Epstein as a consultant at his company.
Wait, I thought he didn't want to work for anybody.
He's not, like, directly hired. He's hired as a contractor.
Okay.
So
okay,
it's his firm working for his company.
Okay.
Working for Hoffenberg's company. Okay, so Hoffenberg's company was called Towers Financial Corporation, which was known to be a collection agency, and this was in 1987. So Epstein was paid $25,000 per month for his work, which include unsuccessful bids to buy different airlines. These attempted takeovers is alleged to have been conducted by Epstein and involved stealing $3 million in bonds to buy the airline stock. So
okay.
It's like super convoluted how they tried to do it. It was basically forging checks from investors and like making fraudulent accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked like they were worth a lot more than they were.
Okay.
And then using the money from the investors to attempt to buy these stocks.
Okay.
Okay.
So was he a stockbroker?
He was not a stockbroker, and in fact, he was trading stocks, but it was done so illegally because he was not a licensed stockbroker.
Okay.
Okay.
So he had no paperwork to back him up whatsoever on any of these jobs. Just the luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No formal education.
Well, he did do his 2 years.
No formal degrees.
No formal degrees.
Okay.
Okay, so in 1993, it was discovered that Towers Financial Corporation was actually a giant Ponzi scheme, which took over $450 million from its investors.
Nice.
Epstein left the company in 1998, and although being named as being intimately involved with the scheme, charges were never brought against him.
Because he was a contractor. How did he know what they were doing?
Well, and like Hoffenberg had said that he was the one like coming up with these, like with some of these plans, and he was the one involved, and he was doing these illegal trades. And Epstein was like, well, I know people higher up. Who are they going to believe? You who just got charged or me?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why until everything else about Epstein was really coming out, these things were quiet.
Mm-hmm.
In 1988, Epstein started a financial management firm and decided to name it after himself. He claimed that J. Epstein and Company was a firm whose clients' assets were worth $1 billion. Or more.
Solid.
The only confirmed billionaire who retained this service was Leslie Wexner, the CEO of L Brands, so that includes like Victoria's Secret, Bath & Body Works, all that fun stuff.
Okay.
Although the two had met in 1986, the following year Epstein became Wexner's financial advisor. By the time 1991 rolled around, Epstein had become Wexner's full power of attorney. This granted Epstein to do anything of a legally binding nature on Wexner's behalf. So that includes any sort of banking, hiring, management, anything on Wexner's behalf.
Oh, that doesn't seem very smart.
I agree. Despite never being explicitly hired by L Brands, Epstein was placed into a number of powerful positions, such as being the director of the Wexner Foundation and the president of Wexner's property. Epstein was charging millions of dollars in fees for his services. This is without the added benefit of being a billionaire's right-hand man.
So he's a con man.
Yes.
He is a snake oil charm seller.
Well, yes and no, because So when he was first working for, like, the stocks, like, he was gaining skills. He does have an intimate knowledge of people that have money. And, like, as a financial advisor, he did well.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the skills and he had the confidence to say, like, hey, I come from a working class background, but I understand the mindset of a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really care about spending money. They just do not want to lose their money.
Yeah.
So that is what he embraced and used to build these connections and keep these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he was putting the work in. He just didn't have the background necessarily to fully fit in to that society.
Mm-hmm.
Or degrees or formal education or any of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But the skills were there. So Epstein had access to Victoria's Secret shows and was known for helping aspiring models get positions as one of the angels.
Oh, nice.
In 1996, Epstein renamed his firm's name to Financial Trust Company and based it in the U.S. Virgin Islands. This allowed him to reduce his federal income taxes by 90%.
How?
Because when you're banking offshores,
Mm-hmm.
it's in the continental U.S., so their tax breakdowns are different.
Oh.
So it's got the added benefit of being a part of the United States banking system.
Yep.
Without the tax implications.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which is really shitty because even now to this day, we have no idea how much money he actually had because of how spread out it was.
Mm-hmm.
We only know what he had in assets, which is like his houses. We don't know the full paper trail.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which is very smart if you're doing illegal activities.
Mm-hmm. Because then you always have funds somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So at this point, Epstein was worth millions, but the exact amount is unknown. He owned multiple properties, including a large townhouse in New York City. He also owned a 26,700 square foot house on a 10,000 acre property in New Mexico, a $2.5 million house in Palm Beach, Florida, apartments in Paris, and of course, the famous island called Little St. James, which is part of the Virgin Islands.
Wait, he owned an island?
He actually ended up owning two. Oh. He just bought Little St. James first, and then he later bought just St. James Island.
Okay.
Normal size St. James Island.
Okay.
He owned a private jet, and he also would eventually own a 747 airplane as well.
Wow.
While not keeping any girlfriends for an extended period of time, Epstein did keep the company of young, beautiful women. The couple of girlfriends that he was public with include Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of Robert Maxwell. This socialite never married Epstein, but she did manage both his public and private life.
Oh.
The first criminal complaint in the United States against Jeffrey Epstein was made by Maria Farmer in 1996.
Ooh.
Farmer was first introduced to Epstein after selling paintings to the man at a discount on the request of the university's dean. That has been disputed, that the dean was involved, but alas. Later, Epstein offered Farmer a position in his employ. The girl would manage who had access to his house, basically sitting at a desk to sign people in and out of the New York City mansion.
Okay.
While there, she reported that there was cameras recording bedrooms and bathrooms.
Ew.
Mm-hmm. So her younger sister, who was 16, had been given an opportunity to travel that summer, paid for by Epstein.
Oh.
And as a part of this deal, she had to spend a weekend with him at the New Mexico ranch.
The young sister or the old sister?
The young sister.
Oh.
So she was brought to the house in New Mexico, and it was also called the Zorro Ranch. There, she was molested by the man. Later that year, in 1996, Farmer also had an incident where Epstein molested her and then attempted to bribe her to keep quiet. Refusing to do so, Maria Farmer confirmed her younger sister had also been assaulted by the man, so attempted to file a report in New York City. Since both incidents happened over state lines, like the New York City police were like, this isn't our jurisdiction. You gotta go to the FBI to make a complaint. So that's what Maria Farmer did.
Good.
However, the FBI did not do anything, or the sisters did not hear anything regarding this complaint.
Cool.
Until many years later.
Of course not. Because what are two young women going to outsay a billionaire?
Well, for sure, 100 millionaire.
Right?
So let's get to 2005. A woman contacted Florida's Palm Beach Police Department to report that her 14-year-old stepdaughter had been paid $300 to strip and give an older man a massage.
Ew.
A different girl had taken this 14-year-old to a mansion, and the girl knew that his name was Jeffrey. This call and subsequent interview of the girl regarding the inappropriate massage led to an undercover investigation of Epstein by Palm Beach police. A solid case was built.
Okay.
Interviews were conducted with 5 known victims of Epstein, and there was also 17 eyewitness statements.
17?
Eyewitness statements.
From, like, cleaners?
Most of the staff didn't really talk, but, like, neighbors, as well. There was, so, here, So testimonies from teenage girls who were from low-income homes testified first being paid for sex acts under the guise of giving massages, but soon the much older, wealthy man had asked them to recruit other girls. So some of these girls, like, he would make a move and those girls would shut him down. Like, no, we're not doing anything of that nature. But Epstein saw that as an opportunity. So he would offer them money if they brought more young girls to him. And he would pay those recruiters. So when I say like 17 testimonies, it's some of these are the recruiters giving the testimonies. Allegedly, it was specified the younger the better.
Ew.
It was known these recruiters would receive a finder's fee for bringing new girls for Epstein's pleasure time. It was alleged by a former employee of Epstein that he would receive 3 massages a day.
Wow.
The wealthy financier had essentially built a pyramid scheme, ensuring that he had a steady intake of young girls to satisfy.
MLM of young women?
Literally.
Ew.
Literally. So this was to satisfy his sexual appetite. And, like, it was disgusting. So if he was at his home in New York, he would call one of his staff members to make sure that he had a girl lined up in Florida, if that's where he was going. Like, it was constant. And so he had 4 main employees that worked at these different houses that would set up appointments. And some of the notepads were like, so-and-so asked if she could come by too because she's been in school. So, like, these are notes written down. Like, you can see photos of them. Why is a schoolgirl coming to your house?
And these employees, were these the recruiters or?
No, they were, like, staff that worked directly under him. Just, like, kind of like assistants. They were the people that scheduled these appointments for him.
Were they women?
I believe some of them were. They are not named. None of them are named, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Okay. So police had the city keep garbage that was collected from Epstein's house and comb through it for evidence. Notes with the girls' names and times were found matching the already interviewed teenagers. Also, sex toys matching the description provided by these teens were also collected from the rubbish. Police conducted surveillance on his Palm Beach house, as well as they kept tabs on his private jet to know of his comings and goings. Being constantly on the move and owning multiple properties made it difficult to know where he was at any given time, but due diligence was done. So, searches of the mansion found hidden cameras and many photos of the girls.
Ew.
A damning case was built.
Mm-hmm.
And with enough probable cause, an affidavit was submitted by police stating that Jeffrey Epstein should be charged with multiple counts of unlawful sex with a minor and 1 count of sexual abuse.
Wait, why isn't he getting statutory rape?
They need specific charges. So I think if they could bring him in on a few charges, then they could possibly stack more on with more evidence.
Okay, so they were going for the bare minimum just to bring him in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So on July 27th, 2006, Epstein was finally charged by Palm Beach Police Department. But despite the overwhelming evidence, he was only brought in on a state charge of procuring a minor for prostitution. So, and when the Palm Beach Police Department were first building their case, the prosecution was like, this is slam dunk. You got this many witnesses. You got all this evidence. Yeah. And he'll be away forever.
Yeah.
This prosecutor eventually was like, kind of washing, kind of just changed the attitude. So he brought the evidence before a grand jury, which isn't common for a state charge.
Yep.
And it was this grand jury that was like, okay, we'll just do the one charge. That's what they brought the one charge in on him for.
For real?
For real. It gets worse. It gets so much worse.
Solid.
Okay. So he made bond. And it was only a $3,000 bond.
Okay.
Yeah. This should have been an open and shut case, but prosecution claimed that the victims were not reliable witnesses. However, this still seems very suspicious.
Sorry, why weren't they reliable witnesses? Because they were young women? Or because they didn't come from an affluential background?
Well, and that's part of the problem too, but so a lot of people were saying these girls, especially Epstein, was saying these girls love me. They're in love with me. And they're just saying these things to get back at me. Or, well, I paid them. So because they took money, they were no longer reliable witnesses. Never mind the fact that some of them were as young as 14 years old. These girls come from lots of them come from a very unstable home environment, not a great economic background, and yeah.
If you can get $500 for 20 minutes worth of work.
Yeah. What 14-year-old wouldn't take that?
Right.
So yeah, they got paid, but it was still a disgusting thing that any adult man should know better than to do. But it wasn't about the sex. It was about power. He purposely chose these young girls knowing that they
would never be taken seriously.
Exactly.
What a disgusting person.
Oh, gets worse.
Well, and then the jury. I couldn't imagine sitting there seeing all this evidence pile up against young women and just being just procuring a minor. In what world? If that was your kid, you're saying that you wouldn't fight tooth and nail just to get them some justice?
Well, then you gotta consider, who are these people? What kind of connections do they have? What kind of strings was Epstein able to pull? So with this single charge against Epstein, The lead detective formally requested that the FBI take a closer and deeper look into this case regarding the powerful man.
Good thing this guy's on it.
If only.
For real?
July 2006, the FBI started Operation Leap Year, the nickname of the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. With victims being found all over the country, a 53-page indictment was prepared. Despite the amount of evidence, the FBI work was slow, working 2 years until the case kind of just slowed to a stop.
Oh.
Agents were not allowed to discuss anything regarding the Epstein case with Palm Beach Police Department, victims, or their lawyer. What wasn't allowed to be disclosed was that in 2007, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alexandra Acosta, agreed to a plea deal. So described later as a sweetheart deal, Epstein was granted immunity from all federal charges. And in return, the now 54-year-old man would plead guilty to 2 state felony prostitution charges.
I'm sorry. What?
So basically, the deal was because it wasn't being federally prosecuted, the federal government could just slough it off back to state level. So there was specific charges that were negotiated against him, and they had to come up with the crimes that would fit the punishment, essentially. That's the best way I can describe it from the shows and the research that I've done.
So this is the punishment that you want, so here, let's try and make it happen?
Exactly.
All those poor women got no justice. I'm sorry, 2 prostitution charges?
It gets worse. So, along with the immunity for himself for federal charges, remember those 4 people that were doing all the scheduling?
Mm-hmm.
They got immunity as well. Also, not only did they get immunity, but in the paperwork, it also included that any other unnamed people in connection would get immunity.
Oh, so he's looking after his people at least.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is. So let's get to the punishment.
Let me guess, it was capital city cleanup.
Okay, well, I think that capital city cleanup would have been a better punishment for this man.
Oh my god, I'm not here for it.
So he was sentenced to serve 18 months in prison, register as a sex offender, and pay restitutions to his victims. So I would like to point out here that the FBI only identified 36 victims that were eligible for restitutions. So Acosta defends the lenient sentence, saying that he had been told from higher-ups that Epstein was, quote, above his pay grade and to leave it alone.
You know what? I think that's such a garbage thing to say to somebody, but I also understand where this man is coming from.
I get it.
But what a garbage mentality.
Well, and Alexander Acosta, under the Trump administration, was highly promoted. Until the Epstein, everything came up with this plea deal came up, and then he was pretty much forced to resign from that position.
Nice.
So, was there something in it for him, for Epstein to get off so light?
Obviously.
Right?
He was part of Epstein's child trafficking ring. Allegedly, that's my feelings.
Allegedly, your feelings are probably right. That's speculation.
Wild speculation.
The moment in court shocked the victims and their lawyers, as they had been unaware of this deal and had been under the impression that this man would be locked up forever.
You literally just let a child rapist go on 18 months of prison time. He's now going to get out and think that he is completely untouchable.
He already was untouchable.
Well, he's still got 18 months in prison.
We'll get to the actual jail sentence in a second. What happened while he was in jail in a second. But the victims' rights were actually incredibly violated, as in the US, they have a very strict list of rights that victims have, including like police protection, movement, notifications if offenders are released from prison. They're supposed to have the ability to weigh in on any potential plea deals, any potential sentencing, anything. They are supposed to know about it. And these women were kept in the dark. They were told to be patient because they were not supposed to know about this deal, which was a violation of their rights.
Yeah.
Instead, Epstein was formally charged in court on June 30th, 2008 for one count of procuring for prostitution a girl below age 18. He served 3.5 months in Palm Beach County Stockade, after which time he was allowed to leave on work release for up to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So he had night sleepovers at prison?
It wasn't even prison. I should also mention that the stockade wasn't exactly a jail cell either, and his work was a foundation which was dissolved shortly after his release. So they just made up a job for him so to have an excuse to leave.
Solid. He had detention as an adult.
He had an entire wing of the jail to himself. And guards who worked there were paid by their overtime by Epstein. Oh. I think it was something like $127,000 Epstein just gave to the county stockade, just to justify everything. And when he was working on the foundation, the guards would have to accompany him, but they had to wear suits. They basically just checked people in and out. After this cushy jail time, Epstein was released on probation on July 22nd, 2009 for a year on house arrest. Did he comply with this?
Of course not.
No, he didn't. He was permitted to use his private jet to fly to his many other properties, as well as go shopping and take walks around Palm Beach for exercise.
So, he just needed to be within, 1,000-mile radius of his home?
Not exactly how I would define house arrest personally, but I guess when you have multiple homes,
Yeah. Which home am I house arrested to, sir? I'm not here for it.
After the short sentence was completed, Epstein had to register as a sex offender, which he did in 2011. At a level 3 registered sex offender, which is high-risk repeated offender, he was required by law to check in with the New York City Police Department every 90 days, but that was never enforced. So between the years of 2008 and 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was served with a number of lawsuits from former victims and a part of other lawsuits which also concerned him. Many of the suits were settled out of court, but I'd like to take the time to just discuss a few of them. So this includes one in 2015, Virginia Giuffre versus Jeffrey Epstein, in which Virginia alleged in a sworn affidavit to have been sexually trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at 17 years old. Ghislaine Maxwell was a girlfriend.
Okay.
Her father was a wealthy man in Britain.
Okay.
And allegedly Epstein worked with him, for him. The lines kind of are blurred, but there was the connection there, and that's how those two met.
Okay.
And they weren't dating, boyfriend girlfriend kind of thing. They were just in each other's company a lot. And Epstein even said about other former girlfriends, they're upgraded from girlfriend to friend. So it kind of says the regards for women that he has. So Virginia swears that she was sexually and physically abused by the aforementioned pair, as well as the other well-known and connected people. Virginia said that she had served as a sex slave between the years of 1999 to 2002, and had recruited other underage girls for the couple to use at their request.
Ew.
People named in her lawsuit have claimed never to have met the woman. However, one of the men took legal action against her. Her character was attacked and she had her name dragged through the mud, like through society papers and the media.
That's gross.
So, and like, this is a running theme with women that have spoken out against Jeffrey Epstein, is they are totally discredited, totally just attacked by the media, made to feel just awful for coming out and speaking against this tycoon.
Yeah.
So Virginia also believed that the FBI may have been part of like some sort of cover-up that involved Epstein.
Oh.
Due to the publicity attacks, Virginia in turn filed defamation suits against multiple people, including Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh, wow. She was not backing down.
No, and that's a few of the victims.
What else can they take from you?
Okay. So another victims' rights suit was filed by two women, one of which was Kourtney Wild against the United States for the non-prosecution agreement given to Epstein. So that was
the backdoor plea deal?
Yeah, the immunity and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So in an attempt to vacate the previous ruling, this suit was based on the fact that the agreement was made and kept in secret, which was a violation of victims' rights. Despite being filed on December 30th of 2014, the judgment was not made until February 21st, 2019, in which a judge did agree that the rights of the victims were violated. The judgment, however, did not offer a resolution, such as the previous charges being vacated. And this was because the charges were not given by a federal court. They were given by a state court. And because of that, they could not be overturned.
Oh.
The latest development of this is from February 2022, in which Wild attempted to appeal this ruling at the U.S. Supreme Court, but the movement was refused. Despite this, Wild is refusing to back down on her search for justice.
Wait, so is he not in prison right now?
Oh. How do you... we'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
I didn't finish the TV show.
Okay, but you were alive in 2019.
I feel like there was a lot of doom and gloom.
So, we'll get to it. I've got theories. We'll get to it. Okay, so we're going to get to 2019 right now. So, unknown to Epstein, the FBI had reopened their investigation into this wealthy man, and on July 6, 2019, they actually arrested him at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. This time, he was brought in on sex trafficking charges. Upon his arrest, a search was conducted of his 21,000 square foot townhouse in Manhattan. Inside, there was found to be hundreds, if not thousands, of photographs of nude women. Many of them were identified to be minors.
Ooh.
In his locked safe, there were discs with labels such as young woman plus a name, miscellaneous nudes 1, and girls pics nude. Which, I'm sorry, like...
You couldn't come up with something better than that?
Right? Like, at least try to be a little stealthy.
Right? It's like some boomer up here trying to label everything. Girls nudes 1. Cool.
So there was also found to be $70,000 in cash, as well as 48 diamonds.
Oh, okay.
An Austrian airport bearing Epstein's photo, but not his name, was also found. And inside there was stamps from France, Spain, the UK, and Saudi Arabia used in the 80s.
Okay, so he had a fake ID.
He sure did. Okay. And he not only did he have a fake ID, but he traveled with it.
Yeah.
it had been used. So the indictment from the FBI to Epstein is publicly available, and in it is alleged that dozens of underage girls were brought to Epstein for sexual encounters. These encounters were virtually the same where a teenage girl, which Epstein would be aware of the fact after asking them how old they were, would be lured to perform a massage on the now 66-year-old man.
Ew.
Once the massage began, it would turn more sexual in nature, as Epstein would command the girl to undress herself. He would usually be masturbating during these times as well. He would then touch the teenager's genitals, either with his hands or with sex toys. Immediately after finishing these encounters, Epstein would pay the girl between $200 to $300. He would also ask them to bring friends or other girls they knew.
Okay.
Epstein pled not guilty of charges of sex trafficking and conspiracy to traffic minors for sex. So based on the findings in a safe, a few weeks later, when Epstein requested to be released on bond, it was determined that he was a flight risk, so the judge denied him. And he actually offered to use the Zorro mansion as collateral, and that property was valued at $100 million.
Well, this is a man who has money to burn. Who cares about a house in all reality to him?
Well, and he also offered to be on house arrest, but we know how that went the last time.
Yeah.
So he did make other court appearances wearing a blue prison jumpsuit, but he appeared to be unfazed sitting in the courtroom. On July 23rd, Epstein was found on the floor of his cell, semi-conscious with marks around his neck. His cellmate claimed he had nothing to do with these injuries. However, Epstein claimed he didn't harm himself. The correctional staff did not believe Epstein and assumed that the disgraced financier attempted to hang himself. Due to this incident, he was placed on suicide watch, and after 6 days, he was taken off.
Okay.
He was also relocated to a special housing unit with a different inmate. So, during this time, he was supposed to always have a cellmate, and he was also supposed to have a guard check on him every 30 minutes.
Okay.
On the night of August 10th, neither of these things occurred.
Okay.
All preventative measures were neglected. The day before, so that was August 9th, Epstein's cellmate was relocated, but no one took his place. Allegedly, that night, the guards there was 2 guards, and they were supposed to be checking on him, and they allegedly both fell asleep.
Oh. Okay.
Despite there not being 1, but 2 cameras that faced Epstein's cell, both of them were malfunctioning that night as well.
Okay.
At 6:30 a.m., Epstein was found dead in his cell. And although resuscitation attempts were tried, he died.
All right.
Which is that was going around for a very long time of Epstein did not kill himself. Epstein didn't kill himself in 2019, which is why I was like, how did you not remember this?
Nope. Does not ring a bell. But
I feel like 2019 was busy time for all of us.
Yeah. It's just been crazy since. You know what? I would not be opposed to that idea.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to the problems with it.
Okay.
So now this is where the case gets super interesting. See, Epstein was a man with connections. He was very close friends with many high-up people, including former and, at the time, current presidents, members of the British royal family, scientists and tech moguls, and Hollywood producers, just to name a few. This was a very, very well-connected man, and not just connected with powerful people. It is believed by some that Epstein would fly these influential people to his private island of Little St. James and operate an underground sex ring where these people would indulge in statutory rape of these underage girls. What's more is that despite his death being ruled as a suicide, there were fundamental investigation flaws, which include there was no photographs taken of the position of his body, which is really important when determining cause of death, because it gives, like, certain positions, it's less likely for certain injuries to have happened. And then, too, when you get into, like, blood pooling, like, it's really important to know all of these things to better understand what exactly happened.
Wait, so they're saying they went in, he was dead, they picked him up, took him over to the coroner's office, cleaned it up, had a nice day.
Essentially. There was, like, so allegedly the guard said that he tried to cut him down and then, like, attempted the resuscitation.
Okay.
But, like, there was 2 nooses found in the cell, but neither of them looked like they were cut. So, like, that was just on, like, 1 or 2 of the articles I found, so I didn't originally include that. But, like, evidence surrounding this is very suspicious, is the long and short of that.
Yeah. But this is also a man who raped hundreds, if not thousands, of girls.
Karma. Is it karma? Or is it intentional? Karma is somebody taking revenge. This is someone with these connections that knows things that wealthy, other important people would not want to get out.
Oh, you think this was an inside?
I do think that.
Ooh.
Because I find it too coincidental that I'm, like, all of these preventative measures were missed at the exact same time in a 3-hour window. There was 2 cameras down, 2 guards asleep, no cellmate. They cut the body down, they didn't take the pictures, and during the autopsy, there were signs of ligature marks around the 66-year-old's neck, and there also was, like, abrasions on his wrist and other injuries, which they couldn't really determine where those were from. An injury that has been debated is the finding of fractures in both the left and right thyroid cartilage, as well as the left hyoid bone. While these injuries are found, according to one study, in 15% of suicides by hanging, they are much more common in cases of criminal strangulation. A forensic pathologist hired by Epstein's younger brother is adamant that his death was a criminal act, not suicide. So, back to the conspiracy theory. As previously mentioned, Epstein is believed to have provided many powerful people with girls he trafficked for nefarious purposes. Mentioned as well was the cameras in Epstein's home, specifically in bedrooms, as well as discs labeled with people's names.
Could you imagine the poor soul that had to watch those?
I always think about those people, especially when we talk about, like, CSAM, and somebody has to go through that. Like, there's a reason why people that do that job burn out very quickly and do not last.
Horrible. Yuck.
So there are many who connect these facts with the likelihood that Epstein would film these higher-up people committing these illicit acts and then either keep them or use them for blackmail. It is believed that in order to keep the specifics of what happened on Little St. James a secret and exactly who was involved, higher-ups might have ordered Epstein to be killed. This is, of course, entirely speculation, and I cannot confirm this. However, it does add questions surrounding Epstein's death.
Well, and why? Like, he wasn't in there that long.
No.
And look at how his pastas went. He would have been out in 6 more months.
Mm-hmm.
Just if history is going to repeat itself.
Mm-hmm. I think it was the fact that he didn't make bond that made him a target. If he could have made bond, I think he would still be around, still operating his ring. But because, for whatever reason, that judge could not be bought, he was a target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So 10 days after Epstein's death, on August 29th of 2019, the case against Epstein was closed after the judge dismissed all sex trafficking charges. There have continued to be lawsuits made by his victims to his estate. So there was over 100 against his estate, sorry.
Wow.
And that amount ended up being around $50 million paid out to victims.
Wow.
In February of 2021, his estate was valued to be around $240 million, just like his physical properties that he owned.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other paper trail that publicly can be found.
Wow.
So, as well, in recent developments, Ghislaine Maxwell was formally charged with sex trafficking and first appeared in court on November 15th of 2021. On June 28th, 2022, Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Now, this case is actually still in the works today.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday when I was finishing up my notes, I decided to just take a peek, see if there's any developments. And there is. It turns out that she's being transferred to a low security prison in Florida. So
what happened to his estate? Did she get it?
I think it was being held in trust. So just that money is pretty much just sitting there. It didn't, there's no other details surrounding the trust.
Okay.
They're selling properties. Lawyers are selling properties, and any money that is not being paid out to victims is just going into that trust. So who has access to it? I don't know.
It'd be interesting to know.
It would be. It would be very interesting to know.
Because we know that Maxwell?
Mm-hmm.
She probably has access to all of his offshore accounts. Or at least she knows about them.
I'm sure. Well, that brings us to other, because he was such a private man, what he told, what specifically he told to each person is impossible to know.
Yeah, but it kind of sounds like they were partners in this crime.
And this crime, sure, but does she have access to everything? No. There's no way she does. Some, maybe. I'll give you that, but
That is crazy.
Sorry, I've got one last disgusting fun fact about him.
Okay.
But, so, in keeping with the theme of the very wealthy, it is very well documented that a number of people with money are very interested in subjects such as eugenics, as well as transhumanism. And Epstein was no exception to that. Now, I did include what transhumanism was. So this is a movement that aims to use technology to transform humans and so create a superior human race. So remember at the beginning when you're subhuman? He's trying to do the opposite. He's trying to be more than human. So the best version of humanity. Smarter, faster, stronger, longevity.
Isn't that what Hitler tried to do?
It is what Hitler tried to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as we're on the same page here.
Yeah. Except Hitler didn't really use technology. He used different methods.
He used specific breeding.
He did
for lack of a better term.
It's the best term. He used specific breeding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is reported that Epstein wanted a baby farm on his New Mexico ranch where he would impregnate and keep 20 women at a time there to birth his offspring. Unbelievably, despite how horribly unethical this would be, it has been discussed in a number of scientific communities. And he donated a lot of money to universities such as Harvard, which refused to give those donations back when these allegations came out. So a lot of scientific communities were scrambling, being like, oh no, this is kind of fucked up what we were talking about with this guy, huh?
I have so many questions. But, like, for the majority of his run, he was preying on lower class people. But for this project,
yeah, we can go with that.
You would want highly intelligent, well-versed, fit people, right? You would want the best of the best of the best.
Unless you were so egotistical to believe that your sperm would elevate any womb it was put into.
Then you're stupid.
Well,
but how was he thinking that he would get these highly educated women to join his baby farm?
Baby farms could happen. They have happened in the past, in relatively recent years. So,
but I'm talking about, like, is he just gonna snatch these women off the street?
That happens.
Here I am trying to give Buddy the benefit of the doubt with forgetting the completely obvious body snatching.
Yep. Yep. So, no, I did not want to leave that out, but I didn't know where else to put that in. So,
your fun fact at the end.
Yep. The fun fact that made me be like, are you fucking kidding me? People weren't. Oh yeah, he was also super into cryogenics, and when he, before he mysteriously died, he had wanted his head and his penis frozen. So, yeah. Once again,
please explain to me how this white man can woo so many people, including some of the top schools, to think that any of this is okay.
Well, when you get into scientific discussion, a lot of time ethics are put aside. You see that a lot of time, especially during conflicts. Think about the numerous atrocities that were committed in the name of science. As soon as you remove ethics from the equation, science skyrockets ahead. It goes leaps and bounds. So when you're talking hypothetically, I think a lot of scientific communities can theorize these conversations.
Yes, but it's also very important to see where this is coming from.
But you get that all the time. You get that all the time when you get people with money.
Yeah.
You get that everywhere. You get that all the time where people with money feel the need to
change things.
Or say how they feel about things. Or influence different policies in a certain way. It's because he had money that these scientists were able to entertain his ideas no matter how fucked up they were.
No, I'm just saying if some Joe Blow with a hillbilly mustache walked in there living, on the side of a mountain saying that, 911 would have been called.
100%.
Just put that out there.
You know what? Not even a Joe Blow, just average middle class man.
Yep.
Average middle class man. Do you think that they can go around? No, people cannot go around talking like that unless you have money.
Touché. Yeah. Because you're right. Coming from where I am, if some random person came up to me and was like, I'm going to start a baby farm. What do you think about that? I'd be like, hard fucking pass. Ew. Well, thank you for that story. I'm disgusted.
I am too. And like I said, I was in such a rage before I started, and it just kept going.
Oh, man. Yuck.
Well, thanks for listening to that story.
Like we said, it is going to be a very long episode.
Yes. But let's get right into it. Kourtney, what's your W?
My W is for Witch Trials.
Yes.
So today we are covering the Salem Witch Trials.
Okay. So your stuff is usually like supernatural. Are you going to be talking?
No.
Okay.
This is strictly the trials.
Okay.
More of like the kind of going into your territory, I guess.
Okay. Wow. That's okay. I'm excited to hear it.
I'm not sorry, because it's great.
I'm excited.
The Salem Witch Trials occurred in colonial Massachusetts between 1692 and 1693. More than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft, or the devil's magic, and 20 people were executed. Eventually, the colony admitted the trials were a mistake and compensated the families of those convicted.
Well, okay. I'm glad that we acknowledged that was a mistake.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Since then, the story of the trials has become linked with paranoia and injustice. It continues to captivate the popular imagination more than 300 years later.
We're so on the same wavelength with injustice.
It really is. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. Several centuries ago, many practicing Christians and those of other religions had a strong belief that the devil could give certain people, known as witches, the power to harm others in return for their loyalty.
Okay.
A quote-unquote witch craze rippled through Europe from the 1300s to the end of the 1600s. So I think I would like to point out here, the 1300s to the 1600s is 300 years.
I would say that's a ripple.
That Europe is like, yeah, we got witches and we are witch hunting. Okay? And we're going to get to it. But America did it so poorly, it only lasted a year.
Was it just that one area as well? Or was it the entire United States?
I didn't actually look. I would say it's probably there was witch hunting in other states. I think we would be crazy to think that there wasn't.
So when we're talking colonies, it's like the original colony. So it would have just been like around
the colony of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is now Salem.
Yeah.
I would assume there was more witch hunts in the States, but this one is the big one.
Yes. Okay.
I'll look into it next time I do a witch one, because I think that would be really interesting to see like what other states did.
Because if they lasted a year or longer, why aren't they more popular? Unless this one just had more murder.
This one is so fucked up.
Oh, love it.
Honestly,
here for it.
Yeah, but think about it. When you think of witch trials, you think of the Salem Witch Trials. You don't think of the 300-year witch trials. 300-year witch hunts in Europe. You think of the actions from those witch hunts, but you don't actually think of the witch hunts.
Not so much, you're right. Yeah. I don't know. I went to medieval times in Florida, and they've got like the torture museum. So I have those kind of ingrained in my brain as soon as like any sort of witch hunt comes up. So, yeah.
That's Europe for you.
Yep.
All right. So, a witchcraft craze rippled through Europe for 300 years, and tens of thousands of supposed witches, mostly women, were executed. Though the Salem trials came on just as the European craze was winding down. Local circumstances explained their delay. So in 1689, English rulers William and Mary started a war with France.
Classic.
In the American colonies. Known as King William's War to colonists. It ravaged regions of upstate New York, Nova Scotia, and Quebec, sending refugees into the country of Essex, and specifically Salem Village in the Massachusetts Bay.
Okay.
Present-day Salem.
Yeah.
So it just sent a bunch of people to Salem.
Okay.
The displaced people created a strain on Salem's resources, provoking the existing rivalry between families with ties to the wealth of the Port of Salem and those who still depend on agriculture. Again, tying into yours.
Mm-hmm.
Controversy also brewed over Reverend Samuel Parris, who became Salem's Village's first ordained minister in 1689.
Okay.
He was disliked because of his rigid ways and greedy nature.
Oh, it's very, exactly what you want in a minister.
Right?
Fuck.
The Puritan villagers believed all the quarreling was the work of the devil.
I mean, you're probably not wrong. It's just y'all are also, little devils.
Like, why don't you guys just stop being assholes
Mm-hmm.
and share with each other?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, you have 10 bundles of hay and he has 10 bundles of fish. Share the wealth.
Wild Witch tradesies.
No time for it. But no, we're just gonna sit and be angry about it. Petty Betties. In January of 1692, Reverend Parris's daughter Elizabeth, aged 9, niece Abigail Williams, aged 11, started having fits. They screamed, threw things, uttered particular sounds, and contorted themselves into strange positions. And a local doctor blamed the supernatural.
Ugh. You know what? That had got to be the best time to be a doctor.
Right?
Fuck if I know, must be a devil right there. Work of the devil.
Yeah, you don't have to do any tests. You just look at her and she's like,
That's a weird contortion, yep.
yeah, that's the devil.
Demon if I ever saw one.
Yeah. Another girl, Anne Putnam, age 11, experienced similar episodes. On February 29th, under pressure from magistrates Jonathan Corwin and John Hawthorne, the girls blamed 3 women for afflicting them. Okay, I'm sorry, but you guys are the ones screaming, screeching, contorting, doing all the fun, weird shit that doctors have said it's supernatural. Why do you get to just say, oh yeah, it's so-and-so?
Mm-hmm.
Honey, you possessed.
Mm-hmm. Where's your exorcism? Maybe give that a try, Mr. Minister.
We're gonna freaking point fingers? I think the fuck not.
No. No.
And like, if I was a witch and I was mad at you, I wouldn't be making you have little tizzy fits.
Yeah, we're gonna do some actual...
We're gonna do damage, honey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Still makes me mad. The girls blamed 3 women for afflicting them. Tituba, the Parris's Caribbean slave, Sarah Good, and a homeless beggar, Sarah Osborne.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Tituba, the Parris's Caribbean slave, Sarah Good, a homeless beggar, and Sarah Osborne, an elderly, impoverished woman.
Okay. Yeah, let's blame the impoverished woman and the slave and a homeless woman.
Yeah.
Very coincidental.
Right? All 3 women were brought before the local magistrates and interrogated for several days, starting on March 1st, 1692. Osborne claimed innocence, as did Good, but Tituba confessed, "The devil came to me and bid me to serve him." She described elaborate images of black dogs, red cats, yellow birds, and a black man who wanted her to sign his book. She admitted that she signed the book and said there were several other witches looking to destroy the Puritans. All 3 women were put in jail.
Okay.
You know what?
I would fuck with them too.
Right. Like, I am here as a slave being pointed a finger at by a 11-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'd fuck with them.
Yep. Yeah, I'm seeing fucking animals of every color of the rainbow.
Right? And especially at that point, like, she probably was like, I know where I'm going at this point.
Yep.
I'm not gonna survive this.
Mm-mm.
May as well.
Take as many as you fuckers with me.
Yeah. I'm with her. I would do the same thing. Be like, yeah, I signed his book. Have a nice day. So, now with the seed of paranoia planted, a stream of accusations followed for the next few months. Charges against Martha Corey, a loyal member of the church in the Salem village, greatly concerned the community.
Uh-oh. If it's in the church, who can't be?
That's literally my next sentence. If she could be a witch, then anyone could be.
I love it.
Magistrates even started questioning Sarah Good's 4-year-old daughter.
Oh my fucking god.
Yeah. And Dorothy, which was her name, her timid answers were construed as a confession.
Oh, fuck off.
The questioning got more serious in April when Deputy Governor Thomas Danforth and his assistants attended the hearings. Dozens of people from Salem and other Massachusetts villages were brought in for questioning. On May 27, 1692, Governor William Phips ordered the establishment of a special court of oyer and terminer, which is to hear and to decide.
Okay.
For Suffolk, Essex, Middlesex counties. The first case brought to the special court was Bridget Bishop, an older woman known for her gossipy habits and promiscuity. When asked if she committed witchcraft, Bishop responded, "I am as innocent as a child unborn. The defense must not have been convincing," because she was found guilty and on June 10th became the first person hanged on what was later called Gallows Hill. 13 women and 5 men from all stations of life followed her to the gallows on 3 successive hanging days.
Fuck.
So, my case was also about getting hanged. Mild wavelength. 5 days later, respected minister Cotton Mather wrote a letter imploring the court not to allow spectral evidence testimony about dreams and visions. Like, I'm sorry. We were just letting every Tom, Dick, and Harry with their weird fucking dreams after drinking, poisoned rum all night. That's a full testimony.
Yeah. Seems reasonable.
Not.
Yep. Uh-huh.
The court largely ignored this request, and 5 people were sentenced and hanged in July.
Are you kidding me? They're like, you know what? Dreams are valid. They are evidence. That person experienced them.
Right?
Yep. Okay.
5 more in August and 8 in September. On October 3rd, following his son's footsteps, Increase Mather, the president of Harvard, denounced the use of spectral evidence. It were better than 10 suspected witches should escape than 1 innocent person be condemned, he said.
Finally, a man speaking some sense.
Well, his dad said that.
Well, yeah, but then nobody listened.
Right? Just ridiculous. Governor Phips, in response to Mather's plea and his own wife being questioned for witchcraft, prohibited further arrests, releasing many accused witches, and dissolved the court of oyer and terminer on October 29th.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Oh, so your wife might have been a witch.
Yeah.
Interesting that we can't submit dreams as testimony.
Right? Weird how quickly things change. Phips replaced it with a superior court of judicature, which disallowed spectral evidence and only condemned 3 out of 56 defendants. Phips eventually pardoned all who were in prison on witchcraft charges by May of 1693, but the damage had been done.
I would say.
19 were hanged on Gallows Hill. Giles Corey, a 71-year-old man, was pressed to death with heavy stones for refusing to cooperate with the court, and several people died in jail, and nearly 200 people overall had been accused of practicing the devil's magic.
Fuck.
So, yes, only 20 people were sentenced to death.
Yeah, but that's 20 people too many when we're talking about...
It is, 100%. But anybody could make an accusation that anybody else was a witch because, she smelt funny, which made my nose tingle, which means that she's a witch.
Mm-hmm.
She snuffed me and I had bad dreams, so she's a witch.
She's a gossipy woman who's promiscuous, so she must be a witch.
Any form of gossip about you was a witch. And so many people died waiting for their trial.
Mm-hmm.
More people died in jail than people hung.
Well, yeah, we're talking 1600s in jail. What are their prisons like? Because I know that they're not going to be like what Epstein had. They're not going to be cushy.
No. I'm willing to bet you there wasn't indoor heating.
Water? No. There's probably a lot of disease, a lot of rats.
Uh-huh.
If they got food.
Yeah. So, now we are going to get into some of the trials and accusations.
Oh, I am so ready for this.
Okay, so we're going to start with Bridget Bishop. Bridget Bishop was examined due to her accusation of suspicion of sundry acts of witchcraft. Remember, Bishop was the gossip.
Yeah.
Bishop was accused of bewitching 5 young women: Abigail Williams, Ann Putnam Jr., Mercy Lewis, Mary Walcott, and Elizabeth Hubbard. On the date of her examination by the authorities, April 19th, 1692, these women claimed Bridget Bishop to be the witch who hurt them. Ann Putnam stated that Bishop called the devil her god. A record was given of her trial by Cotton Mather in Wonders of the Invisible World in his book. Mathers recorded that several people testified against Bishop, stating that the shape of Bishop would pinch, choke, or bite them.
I'm sorry, the shape of Bishop?
Like her shadow.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
The shape also threatened to drown one of the victims if she did not write her name in a certain book.
Okay.
According to Mather, during the trial, anytime Bishop would look up upon one of her accusers, they would be immediately struck down, and only her touch would revive them.
Oh my fucking god.
More allegations were made during the trial, including that of a woman saying that the apparition of Bishop tore her coat, and upon further examination, her coat was found to be indeed torn in the exact same spot.
You mean like you tore your coat, you noticed it was torn, so you could say where your coat was torn.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting how that happens.
Mathers mentioned that the truth of these many accusations carried too much suspicion. Other people, such as Richard Coman, accused Bishop of taking hold of their throats and ripping Coman and his wife out of bed.
She is freaking strong.
Right?
Damn. I want those biceps.
Other girls accused her of harming them with just a quick glance. Even Bishop's own husband claimed she praised the devil.
Yeah, I bet he says that.
Right?
Okay.
Oh, man.
Okay. Fuck.
Whew. Like the day your husband betrays you. That would be the day. If I was a witch,
you'd be cursed.
Friend, you're not seeing daybreak.
Mm-mm.
William Stacy, a middle-aged man in Salem town, testified that Bishop had previously made statements to him that other people in the town considered her to be a witch.
Okay, so she's talking like, hey, people are saying these things about me.
Yeah.
I should spread that too.
Right? He confronted her with the allegations that she was using witchcraft to torment him, which she denied. Another local man, Samuel Shattuck, accused Bishop of bewitching his child and also of striking his son with a spade. Like, sir, I feel like she should have moved over a few inches and hit you with the spade.
Why is your child near the spade? That seems like the child's fault in this situation. She should see a spade coming.
One would think, but I don't know.
Okay.
He also testified that Bishop asked him to dye lace, which apparently was too small to be used on anything but a poppet, a doll used in spellcasting.
Okay.
Like, you know what? Maybe she wanted to use it for, like, picking her nose. Who are you to judge?
Leave her and her lace alone.
Right. John and William Bly, father and son, testified about finding poppets in Bishop's house and also about their cat that appeared to be bewitched or poisoned after a dispute with Bishop.
Oh no. But, like, the cat could have just ate a funky plant.
Other victims of Bishop, as recorded by Mather, include Deliverance Hobbs, John Cook, Samuel Gray, and John Louder.
I'm sorry, I gotta say, I really am enjoying these Puritan names. Such
Like
as
basic
Deliverance.
bitch. Yeah.
I love it.
Sam Gray. Like, come on. During her sentencing, a jury of women found a third nipple upon Bishop, which is considered to be a surefire sign of witchcraft.
Obviously.
Bishop's trial lasted 8 days, officially starting the Salem Witch Trials.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, you know what? I would fucking hit people with a spade at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you all just had something negative to say about her, and you condemned her to death. You had no real evidence.
You mean looking at people doesn't actually physically harm them?
It's called anxiety. Stop lying, and maybe the anxiety will feel better.
Is it anxiety, or is it just that they're shitty people?
Maybe it is a devil's work.
They need some devil's lettuce and maybe calm down.
I'm so enraged that, how did so many people just be like, yeah, this is a great idea. Right? We're just gonna hang the witches. Like, this is great. No worries. Spectral evidence, all good. Honey, you had a bad dream. Let's condemn her.
We were pulled out of bed by our throats, honey.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I'd like to say it gets better, but it really doesn't.
I didn't. I had that feeling. This is 1 out of 20 deaths.
Yeah.
Where there's testimony.
Oh, they all did. It's pretty cool. So, Sarah Good is our next one.
Okay.
Good was accused of witchcraft on March 6th, 1692, when Abigail Williams and Elizabeth Parris, related to Reverend Samuel Parris, claimed to be bewitched under her hand.
I'm sorry, but if you're bewitched, aren't you kind of asking for it? Like, if you're susceptible to being bewitched?
But these were also the girls that went to the doctor saying that they were, like, convulsing, and he's like, it's supernatural things. You possessed by the demon. I don't believe it. The young girls asserted they had been bitten, pinched, and otherwise abused. Do you hear the...
There's a theme.
I know. They would have fits in which their bodies would appear to involuntarily convulse, their eyes rolling into the back of their heads, and their mouths hanging open. When the Reverend Samuel Parris asked, "Who torments you, girls?" the girls would eventually shout the name of 3 townspeople. Tituba, Sarah Osborne, and Sarah Good. Side note, after the trials, Tituba remained in the Boston jail, which had very poor living conditions, for 13 months because Samuel Parris refused to pay for her jail fees.
What?
Yeah. In April of 1693, Tituba was sold to an unknown person for the price of her jail fees.
Oh my fucking God, that's disgusting.
Yeah. Sarah Osborne died in jail on May 29th. Sarah Good was hanged on July 19th. Yeah. Pretty fucking shitty. So next up on our list, we have Rebecca Nurse.
Okay.
On March 23rd in 1692, a warrant was issued for her arrest based upon accusations made by Edward and John Putnam. Upon hearing of the accusations, the frail 71-year-old nurse, often described as an invalid, said, "I am innocent as the child unborn, but surely what sin hath God found out in me unrepented?" Oh my God.
Fucking 1600 speak.
The devil's coming out because I apparently can't say it.
Speaking in tongues.
"I am innocent as the child unborn, but surely what sin hath God found out in me unrepented of, that he should lay such an affliction on me in my old age?" A public outcry greeted the accusations made against her, as she was considered to be a woman of very pious character, who lived in peace with her neighbors and had a reputation for generosity as well as devotion.
So these two Putnams were like, she's a witch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Paris and Putnams.
Okay.
Seeing a theme? I'm willing to bet you these guys were like cheating on their wives and they just claimed everybody who wouldn't sleep with them were witches.
Or who witnessed these affairs, maybe?
Yep. Like, there's gotta be some nefarious shit going on here because this is ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
And then just the way the entire society just rolled with it.
Mm-hmm. Poor 71-year-old, though.
It gets worse.
Oh, no.
Even her neighbor, Sarah Holton, who had accused Rebecca of acting quite unreasonably in a quarrel over some trespassing pigs, later changed her mind and spoke in Rebecca's defense. 39 of the most prominent members of the community signed a petition on Nurse's behalf.
Okay.
At age 71, she was one of the oldest accused. The examining magistrates, John Hawthorne and Jonathan Corwin, who normally regarded the guilt of accused as self-evidence, took a notably different attitude in Rebecca's case, as they also did in the case of her sister, Mary Eastie. They told Rebecca openly that if she was innocent, they prayed that God would show her innocence, for it is a sad thing to see church members accused. Hawthorne was no doubt influenced by the fact that his sister, Elizabeth Porter, was a close friend of Rebecca and one of her staunchest defenders.
Okay.
Her trial began on June 30th, 1692. In accordance with the procedures at the time, Miss Nurse, like others accused of witchcraft, represented herself since she was not allowed to have a lawyer.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
Witches could not have lawyers.
Well, that seems unfair.
Right?
Witches should be allowed to have the devil defend them.
I agree. I feel like there needs to be somebody that represents the devil representing these witches.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
By her respectability, many members of the community testified on her behalf, including her family members. Often the afflicted would break into fits and claim Nurse was tormenting them. Such so-called spectral evidence was allowed into this trial to show that Satan was afflicting others in the community at the behest of the accused.
Fuck off.
In response to their outbursts, Nurse stated, "I have got nobody to look to but God." In the end, the jury ruled Nurse not guilty.
Good.
Due to the public outcry and renewed fits and spasms by the afflicted, the judges reviewed her case with the jury. One particular point was emphasized, and the jury requested a second chance of deliberation.
No.
The jury asked Rebecca to explain her remark that another accused witch, Deliverance Hobbs, was of her company. The implication being that they had both signed a pact with the devil. Fatally, Rebecca, who was hard of hearing, did not hear the question. She later explained to her children that she was referring to this woman as a fellow accused witch. However, the jury had changed their verdict and sentenced Nurse to death. Rebecca was hanged on July 19th, 1692.
Fuck. Holy fuck. Holy fuck, that is such bullshit.
Right?
She was like in the clear for a hot second.
And then her hard of hearing got her.
Well, it wasn't her hard of hearing. It was this fucking loser that was like, "Are you sure she's not guilty? Are you sure after you've already deliberated?"
Deliverance Hobbs.
Fucking deliverance.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where I'm gonna deliver you.
Right?
Fuck.
So next we have Elizabeth Howe. The Pearley family of Ipswich, Massachusetts, were among the chief accusers of Elizabeth Howe. They had a 10-year-old daughter they claimed was being afflicted by Howe. The child complained of being pricked by pins and sometimes fell into fits In their testimony against Howe on June 1st, 1692, they quoted their daughter as saying, "Afflicts me. I can never afflict a dog as good Howe afflicts me." At first, the parents did not believe their daughter's accusations.
Okay.
They took the child to see several doctors who told them she was under an evil hand. Her condition continued for 2 or 3 years until she pined away to skin and bone and ended her sorrowful life. Yeah. Howe was accused of afflicting several other girls within Salem Village. When Howe was brought in for examination, Mercy Lewis and Mary Walcott, 2 of her main accusers, fell into a fit. She was accused by Mary of pinching and choking her in the month of May. Ann Putnam Jr. added her accusations to these by saying she had been hurt 3 times by Howe. When asked how she pleaded to the charges made against her, Elizabeth Howe boldly responded, "If it was the last moment I was to live, God knows I am innocent of anything of this nature." Elizabeth Howe was hanged on July 19th, 1692.
Oh my god.
Fucking bitches.
These little fucking girls.
Yeah.
Maybe they're the problem. Have they ever considered that? Like, if you're constantly being targeted by different witches, why are you being targeted?
Elyse, they're influential families.
I know. But I'm just, oh my god. I hate these people.
Wealthy bastards.
Wealthy bastards everywhere we go. Doesn't matter what year it is.
It literally doesn't. Next, we have Reverend George Burroughs. Burroughs was arrested on charges of witchcraft on May 4th, 1692, based on the accusations of some personal enemies from his former congregation who had sued him for a debt. At his trial, which took place in May, he was found guilty based on evidence that included his extraordinary feats of strength.
Okay, I had really hoped you were just going to stop at his extraordinary feat. And I was going to be like, that is amazing, but feats of strength also. Fair.
Such as lifting a musket by inserting his finger into the barrel.
That is impressive.
Yeah, such feat of strength being presumed impossible without diabolical assistance.
He doesn't skip arm day, guys.
That would be finger day.
Oh my god. Good for him.
Good for her. His failure to baptize his own children or to attend communion was also used as evidence to his guilt. Man, we would... We'd be goners. Yeah. Just goners.
Yep.
He was also suspected of killing his wives by witchcraft.
Wives? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Seems sus.
You know, it was the 1600s.
Yeah, true.
Too many finger days. And although clearly witchcraft was not involved, there is some historical evidence that he had treated them badly.
Okay.
Yeah. George Burroughs was hanged at Proctor's Ledge in present-day Salem on August 19th in 1692. He was the only minister to have experienced this fate in America history. Although the jury had found no witch's mark on his body, he was nonetheless convicted of witchcraft and conspiracy with the devil.
I see.
While standing on a ladder before the crowd, waiting to be hanged, he successfully recited the Lord's Prayer, something that was generally considered by the court of Oyer and Terminer to be impossible for a witch to do.
Funny how that happens.
Right.
Okay.
Next, we have John Proctor. Initial accusations were aimed at Proctor's third wife, Elizabeth, when he began to defend her and vocally expressed his disbelief in the accusers. Fingers were then pointed at him as well. Although Abigail Williams was John Proctor's chief accuser, he was also named by Mary Walcott, who stated that he tried to choke her, and by his former servant, Mary Warren, on April 21st. Warren told the magistrates that Proctor had beaten her for putting up a prayer bill before forcing her to touch the devil's book.
Oh.
Further allegations of an increasingly suspicious nature followed. Proctor continued to challenge the veracy of spectral evidence and the validity of the Court of Oyer and Terminer, which led to a petition signed by 32 neighbors in his favor. The signature stated that Proctor had lived a Christian life in his family and was ever ready to help such as they stood in need. The Proctors were tried on the 5th of August, 1692, and found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. While Proctor and his wife were still in jail, the sheriff seized all of their household belongings. The cattle were sold cheaply, slaughtered, or shipped to the West Indies. The beer barrels at the tavern were emptied, their children were left with no means of support, and Proctor was hanged on the 19th of August.
Oh my god.
Elizabeth, fortunately, who was pregnant at the time, was given a reprieve until she gave birth, which came after the trials ended.
Okay, well, that's something, I guess, but she's got nothing now because everything was sold.
Right.
Okay.
Next, we have Wilmot Red. Red was apprehended on May 28th, 1692, by local constable James Smith. What a basic bitch name. Mm-hmm. The warrant was signed by magistrate Jonathan Corwin and John Hawthorne. The charges brought against her was one of having committed sundry acts of witchcraft.
Classic.
On the bodies of Mary Wolcott, Mercy Lewis, and others in Salem Village, to their great hurt. A preliminary examination took place on May 31st, 1692, at Nathan Ingersoll's house in Salem Village. This was Red's first meeting with the children. She allegedly bewitched them. They promptly fell into fits, and when asked what she thought ailed them, Red said, "I cannot tell." Urged to give an opinion, she stated, "My opinion is that they are in a sad condition."
Okay.
Indicted as a witch, Red was accused of detestable arts called witchcraft and sorceries, maliciously and feloniously used, practiced and exercised at the town of Salem. Wilmot was hanged on September 22nd, 1692.
Oh no.
I know. Next we have Giles Corey. Martha Corey was arrested for witchcraft on March 19th, 1692. Corey was so swept up by the trials that he initially believed the accusations against his wife, until he himself was arrested based on the same charges. On April 18th, along with Mary Warren, Abigail Hobbs, and Bridget Bishop, the following day they were examined by authorities, during which Abigail Hobbs accused Giles of being a wizard. Corey denied the accusations and refused to plead guilty or non-guilty. He was sentenced to prison and subsequently arranged at the September sitting of the court. The record of the Court of Oyer and Terminer on September 9th, 1692, contained a deposition by one of the people who accused Giles of witchcraft. "I saw the apparition of Giles Corey." Giles? "Come and afflict me, urging me to write in his book. So he continued most dreadfully to hurt me by beating me and almost breaking my back, till the day of his examination, being the 19th of April. And then also during the time of his examination, he did afflict and torture me most grievously, and also several times since, urging me to write in his book. I believe in my heart that Giles Corey is a dreadful wizard, for he had been in prison, he or his appearance has come and most grievously tormented me."
Oh no. You know, these people get around a lot for being in prison. How
It's their shadows.
I'm just saying, these shadows sure can move.
Yeah.
And, like, they're very strong shadows.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So again, in this court, Kourtney refused to plead. According to the law at the time, a person who refused to plead could not be tried. To avoid people cheating justice, the legal remedy for refusing to plead was peine forte and dure. In this process, prisoners were stripped naked and heavy boards were laid on their bodies. Then rocks or boulders were laid on the plank of wood. This was the process of being pressed.
I'm sorry. So, either you make a plea or you get pressed.
Yes.
Okay.
As a result of his refusal to plea on September 17th, Kourtney was subjected to the procedure by Sheriff George Corwin. But he was steadfast in the refusal, nor did he cry out in pain as the rocks were placed on the boards. After 2 days, Kourtney was asked 3 times to enter a plea, but each time he replied, "More weight."
Fuck, what a man.
And the sheriff compiled. Occasionally...
The sheriff complied.
Compiled. That's what I wrote, is compiled. No, I wrote complied. Yeah. Occasionally, Corwin would even stand on the stones himself. Robert Kelf, who was a witness, along with 2 other townsfolk, later said, in the pressing, Giles Corey's tongue was pressed out of his mouth.
Oh my god.
The sheriff, with his cane, would force it back in again.
Oh my god, that's worse. Just leave his tongue out.
Yeah. There are several accounts of Corey's last words. The most commonly told ones is that he repeated his request for more weight, passing away 2 days later on September 19th.
Oh man. That is an awful way to die.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Holy fuck though, like, that is like pretty freaking metal.
Right?
More weight.
Yeah. So his, I think, was by far the worst.
Yeah,
And he wasn't even charged with witchcraft. He was arrested on accusations of witchcraft, but never charged or...
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like, to be fair, like, I get it. This is a fucking ridiculous thing. Same with the family before, the one whose pregnant wife lived.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this guy was kind of believing that his wife was a witch, right?
Yes.
But still, as soon as, like, he realized, wait, everybody's being accused.
Mm-hmm.
This is some fucking bullshit. At least if I don't plea, then I can just circumvent that whole... I don't want to hear about these little bitches telling everybody that my shadows pinch them.
So I think the word, like, the phrase that fits most perfectly here is, if it smells like shit everywhere you go, maybe it's not the people around you.
Yes.
So why is it the same, 10 names keep coming up?
I literally said that. Like, if everybody is being accused by these people of witchcraft, maybe they're the problem.
Maybe they're the witches.
Maybe. I don't know.
So, the names of the remaining hanging victims. I would love to continue all of their stories, but in all honesty, it's all spectral evidence. It's all pinching, it's all biting, it's all the same thing of, you stepped on my daffodil, so you're obviously a witch. You have a mole that looks like it could be a third nipple. You're obviously a witch. Like, I can't. So the names of the remaining victims was Susanna Martin, who was hanged on August 19th, Sarah Wilds, George Jacobs Sr., Martha Carrier, John Willard, Martha Corey, and Martha Corey, who is the wife of Giles Corey. And She was hanged on September 22nd, 3 days after he was pressed to death.
Wow.
Mary Eastie, Mary Parker, Alice Parker, Anne Pudetor, Margaret Scott, Samuel Wardwell Sr. Amid waning public support for the trials, Governor Phipps dissolved the Court of Oyer and Terminer in October and mandated that its successor disregarded spectral evidence. Trials continued with dwindling intensity until early 1693. And by that, May Phipps had pardoned and released all of those imprisoned on witchcraft charges. In January of 1697, the Massachusetts General Court declared a day of fasting for the tragedy of the Salem Witch Trials.
Okay, sorry, you've pardoned all of these accused witches, but what are they returning to?
Nothing. Because they sell it all. They seize it and sell it.
Yeah.
Because they're greedy bastards.
And what kind of, I'm sorry, but if you're released and you finally manage to get a home and your neighbor finds out, oh, you weren't a witch? What kind of neighbors are you going to get? What kind of reception? Are you going to be able to get a work? Are you going to be able to remarry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that's great. Thanks for the pardon, but...
Yeah. So in January of 1697, the Massachusetts General Court declared a day of fasting for the tragedy of the Salem Witch Trials. The court later deemed the trials unlawful, and the leading Justice Samuel Sewall publicly apologized for his role in the process. The damage to the community lingered. However, even after the Massachusetts colony passed legislation restoring the good names of the condemned and providing financial restitution to their heirs in 1711.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what? 11? 14 years?
It's too long.
Yeah. The playwright, Arthur Miller, resurrected the tale with his 1953 play, The Crucible, using the trials as a metaphor for the McCarthyism paranoia in the 1950s. Additionally, numerous hypotheses have been explored to explain the strange behavior that occurred in Salem in 1692. One of the most concrete studies published in Science, the book, in 1976 by psychologist Linda Caporal, blamed the abnormal habits of the accused on the fungus ergot, which can be found in rye, wheat, and other cereal grasses. Toxicologists say that eating ergot contaminated food can lead to muscle spasms, vomiting, delusions, and hallucinations.
Okay.
Also, the fungus thrives in warm and damp climates, not too unlike the swampy meadows of Salem Village, where rye was their staple grain during the spring and summer months. In August 1992, to mark the 300th anniversary of the trials, Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel dedicated the Witch Trials Memorial in Salem. Also in Salem, the Peabody Essex Museum houses the original court documents and the town's most visited attraction, the Salem Witch Museum, which appears to the public's enthrallment with the 1692 hysteria. And that is the story of the Salem Witch Trials.
Wow. This was a rage-filled episode.
Full of injustices and bullshittery.
Once again, influential people fucking things up when they ate some bad moldy rye.
Yeah.
Okay. KKK.
Not here for it.
No.
But we, uprooted hundreds of people because of some little girl's screaming wolf. It's great.
Well, don't forget, they did have the very strong evidence of dreams. So,
this is true.
Like, fuck, that is ironclad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess that wraps us up for W.
Yes, thank you for sticking with us after this very long episode. We appreciate every single one of you that are listening.
Yes, we absolutely do. Don't forget, if you ever have any suggestions, feel free to email us at cisforcreepy@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, cisforcreepy.com, and submit on our contact page.
Yes, and then in the next few weeks, we are going to have some really interesting news to share with you guys. So we are super excited about that.
Yes, we're really excited about that. Okay, well, thanks for listening.
Bye.